YouTube Ozic going the Goat House is back. Today we're going over the top 10 offseason moments that will impact the 2023 season the most. So it's not necessarily the best moves or best moments, maybe the biggest for the entire upcoming season. This is actually something we can come back to and redo after more of the offseason, the draft, and more moves to be made. So it should be a lot of fun here. We have full NFL coverage here, recent draft videos, recent free agency grades, videos, trade grades, and a lot more of that to come. It's really getting into that draft season, just a month away. We'll be live during day one of the NFL draft and on Twitter the rest of the NFL draft and all kinds of videos to follow. So join us here, like, subscribe to notifications on. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. There's a link pinned in the comments for that, as well as our Discord and as well as our sponsors. GLD Shop have their Green Bay Packers chain on right now. They have more NFL teams. Liquid IV, new flavor there, code GOAT for there as well. And then Walk the Mock, a mock draft simulator that is definitely unique. So check it out. Links pinned in the comments. So top 10 moments of the offseason that will impact the season the most. Not necessarily the best moves, but number 10 might surprise some people. We're going to have the Lions keeping their offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, making the list, because I think this is absolutely massive, because I really thought they were going to lose him. He had, it really felt like it. He had a bunch of offers to be a head coach, be a young head coach, but to be a head coach in other teams, I think he would have been hired if he kind of didn't remove himself from consideration after he was already, possibly talking to teams. But this was huge because the Lions, they were just getting going last year, and if they would have lost, especially on offense, if they would have lost Ben Johnson, they still would have taken a step forward due to development of players, but then they would have taken a step back in terms of that offensive coaching, because that system is fantastic. It really fits. Jared Goff, the way they had him playing, and they trade TJ Hawkinson, but it didn't really feel like it mattered because it just felt like they schemed guys open very well and knew how to use the collection of weapons they have and have a pretty damn good balance between the run game and the pass game being very, very unpredictable. So I was kind of thinking towards the end of the year, the way the Lions ended things, and how they would develop their players would progress, the young players. I was like, yeah, I think the Lions are probably going to be the favorites to win the NFC North. And then it kind of felt like Ben Johnson was going to be gone. I'm like, that's going to be too big of a hit. I don't know if the offense will be as consistent without Ben Johnson. So I'm probably thinking, this might be maybe Minnesota's division still. But Ben Johnson ended up staying, and that kind of makes them a serious contender to win that division. It's not a guarantee or anything. It's going to be a battle, I think. But I thought that was absolutely huge, and the impact it has on the Detroit Lions, huge for them to be able to be more of a contender, obviously, with him and without. I think a pretty big difference. And then it impacts the rest of the NFC North. Could have, would the Vikings been the heavy favorites? I think the Packers and the Bears doing some good things too. You got to give those teams a shot. But this makes the Lions it keeps them as a tough team still. So this is one that if other people are going to make this list, they probably wouldn't put on there, I feel like, because it doesn't really sound that big. But I think it's absolutely huge for the Lions and for that NFC North, for the NFC in general, for the playoffs possibly, for the upcoming season. Again, not necessarily the 10 best moves of the offseason, but the 10 maybe most impactful moves here, or moments. Number 9 is going to be the Broncos hiring Sean Payton. And of course, this makes the Broncos better. It should make Russell Wilson better. It should make this offense better. They should be a little bit more of a prepared team. So the Broncos should be better. How much better are they going to be? We're not going to sit here and say all of a sudden they're now a super contender. No, that's really not the case. They should be a lot better team than they were last year. We'll see. But it definitely makes them better. Makes maybe the AFC West more challenging. The AFC, maybe it makes it more challenging. The Broncos aren't going to be a free win like they were almost like last year. But I think this is huge. It says a lot. It's going to say a lot for the Denver Broncos this year. You bring Sean Payton, you trade for Sean Payton, you hire Sean Payton because you believe big time in Sean Payton and where he could get the Denver Broncos. So you're more so, your main focus, who's at the top of the tree here, it's Sean Payton. It's not Russell Wilson. It's not anybody else. So bringing him in and seeing you're really going to see what Russell Wilson really could do. I think it's a make or break year for him. He's probably still going to be under contract if he plays bad this year, but it's really going to decide on what they do. Like if they're going to go looking for the quarterback for Sean Payton's future, the Denver Broncos' future after this year. So this is a big move. It really says a lot. It says more than just the Broncos are going to be better, and there's a better coach on that team in that division in the AFC. It's more than just about that. It's really going to tell us, what type of team the Broncos could be, Sean Payton's Broncos will be going forward, and what they need to change. So there's a lot of pressure on Russell Wilson now as well. So this move, could play a huge part on what happens during the season and moving forward. Number 8 is going to be the Cowboys landing a couple veterans. Big moment for the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, they needed another receiver, specifically a speedy receiver for the outside. They do that. They add Brandon Cooks, and they could use another corner. They go ahead and do that and add Stephon Gilmore, and now they have a very, very talented cornerback duo. So this kind of it changes the Cowboys a little bit, but definitely makes them better. Maybe a little bit different of a look Cowboys this year because of moves like this. And we see the Eagles kind of losing some guys. So could this put the Cowboys, over the top or at the top of that division perhaps now, even though they were just behind it before. So we will see what it does for them. But yeah, I kind of plays a part in the Cowboys and how it can impact their season. But also, yeah, the other teams in the NFC East, and maybe this could put the Cowboys as a legit contender finally. So I thought that was a massive moment from the Dallas Cowboys here. Number 8 in the offseason. Number 7 is going to be basically Derek Carr. Derek Carr gets cut by the Raiders. I mean, just an absolute massive move. It takes him out of the AFC West, takes him off the Raiders, and then the Saints sign Derek Carr. So the Raiders, Jimmy Garoppolo kind of plays a part. So this is kind of that's how impactful it was. It kind of plays a part with multiple different ways, really, with the Raiders, with the Saints, who the Raiders brought in, Jimmy Garoppolo, and how it could change them. Garoppolo fits the Raiders a little bit, that's McDaniel's system a little bit better, so they actually could be better. They can be about the same. I think it's bigger for the Saints, obviously, getting better at quarterback, dealing with Winston and Andy Dalton in the recent past. So now you get a pretty durable and solid, consistent quarterback in there with the Saints, and that kind of puts them as the leader in that division. It's just really about staying healthy, outside of that, because it's a talented team. So, if the Saints, so it's big for the Saints. Like, expectations are there. You would think they should win that division. I think a lot of offseason left. Still with the Panthers. I like what the Panthers are doing. Could they challenge them? I think they definitely could, but I think most people would say the Saints are probably the favorites of that division. So a lot of expectations here with the addition of Carr, and maybe what some thought they could go in a rebuild mode, maybe they should. People think that. So making that move, trying to win now, some pressure. So they have to go out and win that division, basically. So that move, the kind of the double move there, really plays a major factor on what we will see and what we can expect this upcoming season. So that is why that one is on the list. Number 6, I'm going to go with the Dolphins adding defense, and one at a big-time position with a big-time player in Jalen Ramsey, and one adding a big-time defensive coach. So Fangio and Ramsey, they add both those guys, obviously. And adding Fangio, really... I think, if you don't add him, do you add Ramsey? I think they kind of go together, in my opinion. But yeah, it's big because the Dolphins were a good team last year. They made the playoffs, but the defense was, going into the season, like, this defense has the potential to be a top 5 defense. It just wasn't that. It was kind of in the middle of the pack. Maybe a tiny bit better in the middle of the pack, but around that range, you get the point. So very disappointing. And you got a pretty talented defense. You also trade for Bradley Chubb last year. The trade deadline, so you got a talented defense. Bringing Fangio, it's gonna boost the defense quite a bit. Not only is it, if they would have had Fangio last year going into the year, I would have been like, yeah, maybe this is gonna be the best defense in football. Maybe. And I don't think it would have been underwhelming. So now you add Fangio with a really good defense, and they didn't have Chubb going into last year either. I would expect this defense to be top 5. I really would. So then adding Ramsey, who I think could be the best cornerback in football still. Very good in coverage, very good coming up and making a play on the ball or the tackle as well, the ball carrier, I should say. So this is big. It's still, this is huge for the Dolphins. I almost thought about ranking this one higher, But it's still going to be on the offense, staying consistent. Can it be like the first half of the year last year? Can Tua stay healthy? Can they get the running game going when they need to? I feel like the running game did get going at times, but they kind of abandoned it a little bit, and that's kind of what happened. Part of what happened in the second half of the year. So a lot still rides on the offense here, but this is big. For the Dolphins, it's big for the AFC East because it makes them a little bit more of a threat. So it could change things. It's not a free division for the Bills anymore. You don't think so? That's why it's just super impactful here for the upcoming season. Number 5, I'm gonna go with the Bengals signing Orlando Brown Jr. Because the Bengals the last 2 years been one of the very best teams in football, just coming up short, and it's mainly been, it pretty much has been because that offensive line is holding them short, a little bit. So they go out and get a big-time left tackle. They don't insist on Jonah Williams out there anymore, and they get better on the offensive line. So this signing could give them that extra boost and help them, get over that hump. Or 2 years ago was in the Super Bowl, winning, losing in the Super Bowl, and last year was losing an AFC Championship game. So they're right there. Getting over that hump is right there. That's winning a Super Bowl. So this could be the move that does it. And they lost some guys. They lost both their safeties. Maybe they take a hit because of that, but I think this kind of, you don't want to say overtakes it. In a way, it kind of overtakes it, I think, because it makes making the offensive line better was like number one. But they are on different sides of the ball, so it's hard to use that word. But yeah, this could be big. This could be a move that makes the Bengals the legit contender of the AFC and helps them win the Super Bowl. So they, and them, it's more than that too. It's more, all these are more than just about one team. It's taking Brown away from the Chiefs. I know they got Juwan Taylor, but and that's kind of a pretty big rival. That's the top contenders in the AFC right there. It's huge. This move is huge for the upcoming season for those reasons. Number 4 is going to be the Eagles just losing several key members, and members is the key word. I almost put players, but there's more than just players. But you look at the 7 players they lost, a lot on defense, a lot of starters on defense. But members is used because they lost both their offensive and defensive coordinator. Shane Steichen goes to the Colts, so they lose their offensive mind there, which I think deserves some credit for Hurts really rapidly progressing, like surprisingly too, at the rate he did it. Because Steichen was there with Herbert as a rookie too, so that's, is it a coincidence at this point? But having his system in place there, I think it's big. But I think Gannon might be, because you have Sirianni, he's an offensive-minded guy, so Gannon might be losing him might be even bigger, because I think he's a good defensive mind. I think he's got the right system, the right scheme in place. It's unique enough. He was able to adjust it going from last year to this year. They get Hassan Reddick, and he's been part of like blitzing defenses, and the Eagles didn't blitz last year, not this past year, the year before under Gannon, but he was able to adjust a little bit. They still weren't like a crazy blitzing team. He was able to find ways to use this unique player in Hassan Reddick. He brings in CJ Gardner-Johnson, who was a good player but not super valuable in the past because he was just a slot corner. But he takes him and gets the most out of his talents and uses multiple different spots. And that's maybe a big reason why he's gone. Gardner-Johnson, that is. So Gannon has a solid defense. Maybe he didn't always make the right call in the right moment, but no coordinator does. But then losing him, going Sean Desai, who's been, the Bears defense took a step down when he took over. I know they were kind of getting older though, and not that, you can't really go off of what we saw in the Seattle Seahawks. Just tough. It's kind of to be determined with a guy like Sean Desai, and he's kind of had a background of more of a 3-4 defense as well, which would be changing things for the Eagles. Not that I think they'll do that, but maybe they didn't view Gardner-Johnson as a great fit because he kind of just really specifically fit Gannon's scheme there. So everything plays a big part. It's not just losing this guy or these guys. It all kind of goes together, and it hurts the Eagles. And I thought they were going to be, and they could still be very good, but I thought they'd be like a legit contender after we saw them get to the Super Bowl for years now. I think what I would say right now is they probably take a step down this year because they lost so much. But I would watch them to get back on track maybe after another offseason. But it's big for what this video is, how it impacts the upcoming season. And we talking about the legit contender of the NFC, and they could still be there. I think they got work to do, but they could still be there. But we talk about the legit contender of the NFC, maybe coming down when he goes to the Niners. Here goes to the Cowboys, even bigger picture in the division. The Giants are getting better. The Commanders are getting better. I'm not saying they hop the Eagles, but it makes it more interesting. Look at other NFC teams. Do they hop over the Eagles? Some of the teams from the other divisions. But so it plays a part more than just Philly. It's just the rest of the NFC as well. So definitely something. I thought they would lose some guys, but end up being bigger than expected there. Out of the top 3, and this one is still kind of to be determined in a way, but the Ravens placing the franchise tag on Lamar Jackson was absolutely huge. Just a regular franchise tag on top of it, not signing him to a long-term deal where it's just done, it's over. It's not really it's a big move because it's a big contract for a big player, but it's not really that impactful for the season if they did it that route. But he's on the franchise tag, the cheaper franchise tag, so that means the Ravens are allowing anybody to talk to him to sign him. If they sign him, they can match the offer. Maybe they get 2 first-round picks out of it. Maybe he signs the tag, and that's kind of news today. He's requested to be traded, but he signs the tag, and then they just trade him. But it's just the moment of them tagging him was just huge because there's some doubt about him playing for the Ravens last year, whether he's still technically on the Ravens, but they're not going to play on that tag or not agreeing to a deal, or him signing or being traded elsewhere, and that could kind of play a part of impacting another team, another division, another conference if he's on another team. But it's still kind of to be determined, but it changes a lot of things. It just doesn't free. And the Ravens could, at the end of the day, they could still decide to sign him to a long-term deal. Doesn't feel like there's anything close. Feels like Lamar is frustrated. Maybe the Ravens are as well. So he could be not playing for the Ravens. I don't want to say he's going to be playing for another team, but he could be not playing for the Ravens last year, whether it's him sitting out or another team. So that definitely, that makes the Ravens less of a legit contender if they're going into the year. I know they were missing Lamar here and there throughout the last 2 years, but going into the season, if they don't have him, it definitely makes them less of a contender. But it also affects the draft too, and that's going to affect the season. It's like a domino effect, all because of this. Because do the Ravens look at quarterbacks? Do other teams, miss on a quarterback and trade for Lamar during the draft or right after the draft? So this is kind of a big moment that is still to be determined, but it's going to affect this upcoming season here for sure. Number 2 has got to be that big trade between the Bears and the Panthers. I actually think this is more. You could argue either way, but I think this is more for the upcoming season. That's what this video is. For the upcoming season, who does it impact a little bit more? I'm actually going to say the Chicago Bears. You could argue the Panthers are about to get the first overall quarterback, and that is huge. It's going to make them better. But there's not a lot of, there's not a lot of right now. Like you would expect them to be pretty good. That division's kind of weak. You hope whoever the quarterback is and the rest of the team plays pretty well, obviously. But there's no demands like you got to go win this, you got to go be this or that or do that, or the rookie quarterback's got to be this good. There's none of that. Like there's no deadline or there's no last chance, anything like that. But it is a massive trade, and we'll start with how it impacts the Panthers in the NFC South. And the NFC is what, again, we kind of said it already. They get better at the quarterback position, and that's the rest of the roster is pretty damn good. So that's all they need. I think a guy like who I think they'll take is C.J. Stroud. I think a guy like that is pro ready and can make them a contender to win that division right away. If they don't, it's not a big deal because it's a rookie quarterback. But I think it impacts a lot there. You got to take the Panthers a little more seriously now and moving forward. And they will be better, but I think this is maybe bigger for the upcoming season for the Bears. I think that a trade like this, says that they weren't interested in a quarterback this offseason. They got DJ Moore, a big time receiver that could help them, so the Bears will be better. Are we expecting them to be contenders or anything like that? No, not yet. I think they have a bright future, but it's still a work in progress. It shouldn't be a shocker if they're still in rebuild next offseason, even though they got better here. But how it impacts them going into the season, like we said, they're going to add more players. They're going to add more players to their team throughout the draft. They had DJ Moore, big-time receiver. But it plays a big part on, this season, what we're going to learn, really, if it goes back to Justin Fields. Because now Justin Fields gets a legit shot. Like, you're the guy. We're telling you that. You're the guy. We got you a legit number 1 receiver. We're giving you more pieces throughout the draft here with this trade. And then we're adding, the big part is they're adding future. They added a future pick next year. So this trade will play a lot on what happens this season and what could happen this season, and then what could happen for the Bears going forward. looking at the quarterback position, because Fields, they kind of supplied him with more. Now that it's a win-win situation with this trade, because they'll know if Fields is the guy or not based on this year. Like he's got to. We don't need to see him be better in the running game, but he needs to be better as a passer. He needs to win some more ball games here, and if he does that, he's their guy. That trade told us a lot this season, and it impacted the season. The season told us a lot, and if he still struggles as a passer, they're kind of set for maybe taking a quarterback the next draft here, because they have some picks they got in this trade. So this trade plays a massive part for both teams, what it means for the season and what happens in the season, what that means for the rest. So I think that is why that is massive here. And so it's a lot of, again, with both these teams, it's not like they need to win Super Bowls now. It's not anything like that, not even close to anything like that. With the Panthers, there's really no pressure, because you don't need to see X amount out of a rookie quarterback. You want to see good things with the Bears. And there is some expectations, some pressure, specifically out of Justin Fields and getting, a guy like DJ Moore the ball, and getting those. And they have Mooney and they have Claypool. Couldn't really get on the same page with Claypool at the end of last year. So I do think there is some maybe a little more expectations and some pressure there. So that's a big reason why, mainly the Bears, this impacts the upcoming season. And number one, we'll talk about the NFC North a little bit more. I think the biggest thing this offseason, the biggest moment, was the Packers choosing Love. Not only was it the Packers and Rodgers are going to split, I could have put that up here. That might be number one. That might be big. But I think, we'll start with that part. Because that part is part of this as well, and it plays a huge part, because the Rodgers and Packers decided to split, and that impacts it massively, and why it's number one, because the Packers are different. They don't have Rodgers anymore, and they can still play ball, because they got a really good defense, they got a good coaching staff, they got a good running game. Still waiting for them to add some more weapons. We'll see what they do in the draft. And Love could be good. Maybe he's not good. We really don't know right now. Kind of have an idea that he has some upside. He's got a strong arm. He might be better than what some people expect, because I think some people take a look at that Chiefs game that he got thrown into. Just got thrown into and got blitzed over and over again. There was really no adjustment. You cannot base too much off that. So I think some people do that. But, it could affect the rest of the NFC North. It's like every year. It's even last year. I know the Vikings won, but it's like going into the year, it's like, gotta watch out for Aaron Rodgers and those Packers. It's just as long as they have him, anything's possible. And it's really, you don't really get that feeling right now, but people will take them seriously still, because they're a good team. They're talented. They're pretty balanced, and they have a pretty damn good defense. I think it'll be better this year than it was last year. More like the second half of the year last year was pretty good. But it kind of opens maybe the division up in general. I know, again, they didn't win it last year, but it kind of opens it up a little bit more. And then it also Rodgers is going to be somewhere else. We think it's the Jets, so that impacts a whole different division, a whole different conference there. AFC East, are the Jets the favorite over there now? Is it, the Dolphins are getting better. The Patriots, I think, get better with, adding Bill O'Brien in there, but the Bills are the kings of that division right now, so it impacts more than just the Packers over there. But why I say it is more important to say the Packers choose Jordan Love, we're kind of going back to Jordan Love. Now, they have an opportunity to know if their first round pick is the guy or not. If they had Rodgers still, they wouldn't know. Now they got to pick the 5th-year option up on him, and now you test him out. And the Packers went from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers, so maybe a lot of pressure, a lot of expectations here. But if he doesn't get the job done here, the Packers then know, like, all right, let's go find that next Aaron Rodgers. Let's actually go do it this time, and we'll have him maybe start day one this time around. So it impacts the season big time, and what happens in the season because of this, it impacts the future as well. And I kind of played a big part in this, too. But also, I think the Packers, there's like kind of 3 levels to this. The Packers, it wasn't Aaron Rodgers saying, "Yeah, I'm out, see ya, I'm gone." It was actually the Packers saying, Jordan Love, we're going with him. It's time to see what he has. I think that makes it massive as well. I mean, just putting that much faith in that young quarterback, but also saying to Rodgers, who has kind of held the keys for a bit, like, yeah, we're pretty much done with you. And that played a part in Rodgers not retiring. He even said that. Maybe who knows what was the truth there, but it sounded like what he said, he was going to retire, and then he basically, what I gather from it, the Packers said, yeah, we don't really want you anyways. And then he's like, all right, I'm going to go play. I'm going to show you. So kind of how I took it. So now you got a pissed off Rodgers going to play for we think the New York Jets. So I think this decision may, impact in so many different ways, in so many different spots. The other conference, not just in the NFC, not just the NFC North here, not just the AFC East too, because how legit of a contender are the Jets going to be? We know they're going to be very good, but I could see some people saying maybe that's that Super Bowl team out of the AFC. I could see some people saying, they'll be an all right playoff. They'll win a playoff game maybe, and see some people saying, maybe Rodgers is washed. Probably not too many of these people, but maybe they don't even make the playoffs because the division's so tough. Maybe he's kind of declining a little bit. Maybe somebody's like, maybe they go to the AFC Championship game, but maybe they can't get over the Chiefs or the Bengals. So I think this just impacts so many different things in so many different ways for the upcoming season, and that is why it is number one. And this is something we can revisit. So hopefully everyone understood the video. It wasn't necessarily the biggest moves or who got better, like who's going to be a contender now. It's just how the moves that make the biggest impact for the season is what it was. And I think I really like this video because I think that it's kind of most important. Like, how is this season going to look based on the changes that happened this offseason is basically was the thinking here. So, yeah, let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments. All kinds of videos like this and different type of videos on the channel. Please like, subscribe to notifications on, full NFL coverage. And we'll be live during the NFL draft, of course. So I hope you can join us. Follow our Twitter, very important. Link pinned in the comments for that. And some other things that could be useful. That's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.